I'd like to call the meeting to order. This meeting is being recorded. I would ask, is there anyone else recording this meeting? Would you please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Do we have any special recognitions this evening?
I do not believe so. Yes. We do not this
I
evening.
don't think so.
Nope. Thank you.
Any citizens' concerns, comments, questions, conversations? Nothing? All right. I would entertain a motion to accept the regular session minutes from November 3rd.
I'll make the motion.
Do I have a second? Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
It is a vote. We now move on to the superintendent's report.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. With your permission, I will go down and join the leadership team and start with the budget kickoff, and several others have presentations tonight as well.
Sounds good.
There you go.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you. We are here to share with you the budget kickoff regarding fiscal 2016. I would like to recognize the leadership team members who are here, some of whom will be presenting tonight and several who will not, but it really is indicative of the team approach that we take in this process. So as we do each year, we start and look at our mission and vision. And if you remember, our mission is strengthening connections through rigor, relevance, and relationships. And the vision, which was slightly changed as part of the strategic planning process, and the change was we switched opportunities and challenges, putting the positive first, that our vision is to prepare students for the opportunities and challenges of a changing world. The core values, and I share with you the mission and vision and core values because it was against these backdrops that we really created this budget. We developed a zero-based budget, and we looked to see what our needs are, but always in keeping with our mission and vision and our shared core values of student-centered decision-making, high expectations for all, safe and respectful environments, responding to needs based on data, equitable opportunities for all, and our dedication to continuous improvement and excellent educational excellence, of which we regularly speak. Just as we have done these past several years, this now being the 7th year we bring forward a budget to you, we asked ourselves, against those core values, this same question: how will this impact students and their achievement? We also kept in mind the priorities that were set by the school committee and leadership team. First and foremost, student safety. As we know and talk about regularly, the safety of our students is paramount. Maintaining environments in which our students and staff can work and learn, grow, and thrive is a complete top priority for us. Additionally, student achievement. We believe, as I just noted, in the ideals of continuous improvement and educational excellence. And you will see that reflected in not only the presentation tonight, but those that are to come tomorrow. We believe that we have a serious responsibility to be sure that our students are as best prepared to engage and embrace any opportunity post-graduation, as well as while they are with us. Transitions. I think the summer of 2015 can definitely be termed the summer of transitions. We will be moving the students from the current middle school into the new middle school. We'll be moving Julia Bancroft and Packagug, merging together at 10 Swanson Road. We'll also be taking Mary D. Stone and transitioning them to Packagug. And in all likelihood, assuming all goes as planned and we continue to be on time and on budget, that the school committee may likely vote to turn JB and Mary D. back to the town. Additional priorities are class size. In keeping with the expectations that you have set, This budget reflects class sizes that are below 25 students at the elementary grades, and also appropriate class sizes at both middle school and high school. In terms of technology, we fund this not only through the CIP and the operating budget, school choice, and grant funds, but also the FF&E, the furniture, fixtures, and equipment money that will come along with the new middle school. We currently have, as you know, a one-to-one iPad initiative in grades 8 and 9, and that will be expanded to grades 6 through 12 next school year, with multiple iPad carts available at each of our elementary schools. In terms of textbooks, a new mathematics series will soon be in place at grades kindergarten through 8, and the next area to receive a similar review will be English language arts at the elementary. Additionally, we replace texts as needed and also purchase advanced placement texts that are added when courses are brought online. Other priorities are professional development. We have a robust program of professional development, and we believe strongly in the need to continually offer high-quality items to our teachers and staff so that they can remain on the cusp and cutting edge. Strategic plan implementation. Later tonight, I will share with you an update regarding the progress that has already been made on the strategic plan, but we really see this as a mandate from the community, that there were 120 plus individuals, school and community representatives, who worked on this throughout our last school year, and you will see that the items requested, the items noted in there, will come through as requests in our budget. And finally, educator evaluation. Auburn has really been on the forefront of implementing the educator evaluation system, and we intend to continue to do so. So some assumptions to share with you based on what will be presented tonight. The October 1st counts, and those are the numbers I shared, I think, a couple of meetings ago, that the state takes as the official count for school districts and bases their Chapter 70 monies on those. So even though we've had some movement in and out at the different schools, in order to have a consistent base, all schools use their October 1 counts. We've used the full value of the anticipated grant funds, and we typically do this each year. We do not have, nor do we anticipate getting any direction from the federal government until well into the spring, but we have made an assumption that we will get the same value in grant funds this next year as we have this year. Medicaid reimbursement, we again have assumed that it will be at the $124,000, just as we have in FY15. Additionally, we've built the budget using the same number of school choice students as currently in place, a total of 46, 31 at high and 15 at Auburn Middle. We've actually used that funding as offsets. We've utilized our revolving accounts, whether it's the building rentals, the Satellite and Galaxy account, as well as preschool and athletic revolving. You will see offsets made to that as well. And we have assumed that you will continue with a busing fee of $100 per student. We've actually used a $75,000 offset to the transportation line. Circuit breaker, we have budgeted that at 60%, and again, we have no direction yet from the state level on this, but that is a fair and safe place for us to begin. We have kept, when you actually get a copy of the budget tomorrow night, the instructional assistants and the ABAs in their current placement where they are now, but just for you to note that there will be switches. We move them as students move to grades, but the easiest way to ensure that we track them is to keep them where they are currently. You will see that we have the addition of one bus. Mr. Barber and Mr. Fahey are working with the bus company, and they've actually held a mock run of the buses just on Monday. But if we determine it's not needed, we can certainly remove it. But based on the fact that the new middle school and it being a bit further out from the others, this is added into the budget, at least at this point, for consideration. As you know, the middle school, we transitioned to the new middle school, and there's actually a value built into the project budget to pay for the cost to move from 10 Swanson Road to 7 West Street. For Julia Bancroft and Packagug, though, we don't have any other funding sources. Now, I am happy to tell you that we have requested from the Worcester County Sheriff's Department to move and have preliminary approval from them to help us do that. But until we can actually determine, there will be some additional costs, whether it's moving trucks, and we do have to provide some food items for them. So we have carried a value of $10,000 for now to move those. We'll also need to store some equipment And then likewise, for the move from Mary D. Stone to Packagug, we've budgeted in, and again, the request, and we have the preliminary approval just received today from the Sheriff's Department, but we've carried a value of $5,000 at this point. Assuming that all of our timelines are kept, and we believe that they will be, as I noted earlier, Mary D. and Julie Bancroft may no longer be needed as educational facilities. But in order to, so even when they are turned back to the town, should the school committee decide to do that, we need to carry a cost to heat and minimally maintain them. Obviously, they're going to be, or could be potentially, empty buildings, but we do need to still provide heat. We don't want frozen pipes and such. So we've carried a value of $21,900 at Julia Bancroft and $40,300 for the Mary D. Stone School, and you will see that reflected as well. So that's an additional $62,200 we've carried in our budget. So the process moving forward, this evening, actually the first presentation will be by Mr. Pietrello, our Fine Arts Director. He is heading back to the high school for a rehearsal, and then taking over from there will be Dr. Lozay, then Mr. Barber. I will be filling in for Ms. Kaufman, who is unavailable to be here this evening due to illness, Mr. Fahey, and Mr. Bouvier. Tomorrow night you'll have presentations by the athletic director, as well as the elementary principals and the high school and middle school principals, and then I will conclude with a budget summation. As you know, the town's budget kickoff has not yet been scheduled. I anticipate that probably in the coming weeks that will happen, and that we usually get some direction from the CFO, Mr. Kazanovich. We do have school committee meetings upcoming on December 3rd, 17th, and January 7th. Those are all meetings before we have to, or you have to as a school committee, set forward to Town Manager Jacobson a draft budget by that second Monday in January, which this year happens to fall on January 12th. So as noted here by John W. Gardner, excellence is doing ordinary things extraordinarily well. And I think that you'll hear in the presentations tonight, and those that have been presented over the past few weeks to you, that there are tremendous positive, engaging opportunities that are taking place throughout all of our schools. And as a school district committed to educational excellence and continuous improvement, it is our commitment to you and to all of the community of Auburn that we will continue to do our very best to be sure that our students receive all that they can and deserve. So unless you have questions for me, with that, I will turn it over to Mr. Pietrello, who will present the fine arts budget.
Do we have any questions? Nothing yet? Okay.
Jack, can you just let me the third hand? Because you can hold it back forward. Take a look up. Oh, sorry. Yeah, it did earlier this year.
There it is.
Oh, there it goes. How can I get a full screen now?
Here.
I got it right this one.
Was it?
Yeah.
Click on slideshow.
Go to slideshow, across the top.
Slideshow is supposed to be.
Yeah.
And then you can,
Yeah. That'll catch up.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I'm the lucky person that gets to talk to you right after Dr. Brunel. Unfortunately, tomorrow evening, I have a concert. The high school and middle school band concert is tomorrow night, so I have to do this tonight, and we'll get underway. Just have a couple of quotes up there. Einstein and Picasso. I guess our focus in the music and art department is to instill a love for the arts in students from grade K right through high school and then beyond. And those are kind of where my quotes come from. In the elementary schools, we expose every child to music and art. We have a standard-based curriculum. We have very experienced teachers, and I have to say, wonderful art and music teachers. K through 12 all the way through. We are always looking at our curriculum, we're always looking at our teaching methods, sharing with each other to improve student performance, student learning, and the outcomes that we get from our students. 6 through 8, similar. Chorus and band and art. And again, as a team, a K through 12 team, we look at what we're doing at all the levels, and we spiral up through the higher grades. Same thing for 9 through 12. Our elective courses in the arts are wonderful. The students can take all sorts of art and music classes, and having trimesters has really improved, I think, this is personal, has improved the way I teach and has improved the quality of what I'm getting from my students. And I'm saying that because we did our first trimester 1 concert Monday night with the high school and middle school choruses. And I was very proud to have about 111 students on stage with the high school chorus and over 50 men singing. I was very pleased, to say the least. Our accomplishments, marching band festivals and competitions. We've gone to 3 to date, and there's 1 more that they're going to. New marching band equipment, monthly staff meetings, another storage unit for the music, yay. It comes in handy when there's no place left to put music. With the elementary principals and myself, we've developed a much better schedule for the classes, a lot more, shall I say, easier, where people aren't running in different buildings and having a crazy schedule. And also this year, we have an increase in the elementary band and the high school and middle school band and choruses. And here is our support cost. The minimal increase, basically the biggest increase would be in the finance transportation. That account used to be called, or still is called, transportation registration. And years ago, it got slashed by half. And we've increased it slowly. And we're attempting to increase that again back to where it was before. And that's really the only big jump. Nope. Here we go. Our staffing, 6.7 music, 4.0 art. We do have students going on to major in art and music in college. Students going on and doing community work in the arts. And again, as I said at the beginning, our focus being trying to instill in children to become lifelong participants and lovers of the arts. Any questions?
Do we have any questions?
I do.
Gail?
Charlie, in the 6 to 8 level, all the students are exposed to art and music classes, or is it choice? It's more choice now?
It's a choice, but through the grade levels, at some point, they can take everything through the 3 grades.
Okay, and in the high school level, is it?
High school level, because of trimesters, they have the opportunity to take lots, 15 classes a year they can take. And so we do get lots of kids in the arts. We have good numbers in the intro to art classes, beginning guitar class, keyboard class. I just looked at trimester 2 for chorus, and I have 136 in chorus second trimester. So yeah, great opportunities for the kids.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? I have one. The fine arts transportation. Could you just explain to me what that is? I understand what transportation is, but exactly how, and how did you get along for the few years that it was cut?
When it was cut back, well, it's been a while, it's been over 10 years, we We used our revolving account to supplement, and that is from our concert revenue. And basically, concert revenue is where we get that. And we have not raised our ticket prices for concerts in over 20 years, and I don't really want to because I don't want to charge too much for the parents to come out and see their kids. So I want to kind of keep it, it's $3 and $1. It's not a lot of money, but I'm trying to keep that. But that is where we got our supplemental money from the revolving account to
Okay.
go to festivals. Sometimes students had to pay though too. That was if, for example, if we had students going to a competition, they might have to chip in $20 for busing if we didn't have the money to cover the whole thing.
And what would we typically spend our revolving money on?
Pretty much busing.
Transportation, mostly,
yeah.
nothing else?
Sometimes if we needed a piece of equipment and there was no money in the budget for it, that's where it would come from.
Okay, that's all I have.
I have a follow-up question on that.
Yeah.
Charlie, I think it went from 7,500 to 9,000, or 9,500, or?
Yeah.
If you get that amount of money, is that enough so students don't have to pay out of their own pockets?
It
Do you think?
probably would be.
It would be,
It
okay.
probably would be, yeah. I couldn't say for sure because I don't know
Right.
the cost, but yes.
Okay.
It would help a lot.
Okay.
Anything else?
Any further questions?
I just have, I have to put a plug in, because I'm here and I'm going to the Greater Auburn Community Chorus rehearsal. Our concerts this year are, I get the dates right, the 13th and 14th of December, and we're doing a wonderful show this year, and I hope that you can all come and see us. And we have about 50 people from the Greater Auburn area, and they love it, and I hope you do too. And that's where I'm heading to their rehearsal, but they've started without me. And I thank you very much.
Sounds great, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, oh, okay, yes.
Good evening, everyone. Tonight we're here to present the central office budget, which includes teaching, learning, and curriculum, the business office, pupil services, facilities, and technology. This year we decided to create one inclusive PowerPoint in order to save time with transitions, but also because we see ourselves as a full team. As Dr. Brunel stated in her kickoff, all of our decisions and our budget proposals, as you will see this evening, are grounded in our mission and our vision, and also our shared core values. So I'll begin by presenting the teaching, learning, and curriculum budget. Prior to giving the specific figures around that, however, I would like to share some accomplishments and some of our future goals. In terms of teaching and learning, which truly encompasses far more than you see here, in which you'll be further hearing more about tomorrow night as the principals expand upon all of this, and I don't want to steal their thunder tonight, so I'll try to be brief. But the district has made a very strong commitment to several ongoing initiatives. We continue to increase the number and the access to AP courses at the high school. And to support that work, we are also providing pre-AP strategies and lessons to our students in grades 5 through 10. Our inclusion and co-teaching initiative has not only benefited our students with IEPs or who have special needs, but we're finding that those inclusive practices are benefiting all of the students within that classroom. Having math coaches both at the K-8 level and the 9-12 has afforded us the opportunity to provide job-embedded training for our teachers, which really results in better practices and greater student achievement. Our math paraprofessionals, they provide support within the classroom, but they also provide support during targeted intervention, which are intervention blocks at every elementary school. We also provide assistance prior to the start of school oftentimes, and at lunchtime as that's needed. We are fortunate this year, because you approved it last year in our budget cycle, to have an ELO tutor at every single one of our schools. This has allowed us to be in alignment with DESE's guidelines for the amount of time that our students need to receive those services, which hopefully will hasten our students' growth in terms of their English proficiency, and then result in quicker academic achievement. In addition, at the end of this year, we will have 36 teachers, as well as all of our administrators, who have been trained in sheltered English immersion strategies. And then next year, we will have an additional cohort of teachers receiving that training. Teaching and learning is nothing without curriculum. So in terms of what we're working on this year, we are currently implementing a new math program at the middle school in grades 6 to 8. We are looking to adopt a new math program for our students in grades K to 5. We continue, as I spoke about, to expand our pre-AP lessons to our grade 5 students, which supports our continued focus on expanding our AP program. I spoke earlier this fall about a lot of the curriculum work which was conducted this summer. Those teachers have shared that work with their colleagues and is currently being implemented. We continue to look at any manner in which we can expand our STEM initiatives. And this year we purchased a new ESL curriculum for our students at the high school. Going forward, we will implement the new math program that we hope to adopt this year. We will begin the process of adopting a new ELA program for our students in grades K to 5. We will also hope that DESE finally adopts the new science standards so that we can work to align our curriculum to those. And we hope to purchase an ESL curriculum for grades K to 8 going forward. As Dr. Brunel mentioned, we have a very robust program of professional development within the Albany Public School, and we thank you for your support with that. That has grown significantly over the past 5 years. I've talked to you frequently about co-teaching. That's ongoing this year. We're in our 3rd year of that at the middle school in year 2 for our high school and elementary. We're currently working on the next phase of the educator eval tool, which is district determined measures. And we'll be using this to help us ascertain what type of impact teachers have had on student learning, whether it is low growth, moderate growth, or high growth. We recently had training for the EdEval team around how to use the data that we're collecting to determine that. Again, we continue to provide professional development for our teachers in creativity making, WIDA, which is the new standards around English language learners, and technology. Technology is huge across this district. We recently had an October Day at EdTech Teacher here, which worked on flipping the classroom for our middle school and high school teachers. Staff coaching continues its job-embedded professional development, the best kind you can get, but we also seek to provide some professional development for our coaches themselves. We recently had session 1 of 2 sessions around difficult conversations, and we did this for our administrators, our team chairs, as well as our department heads who were meant to conduct difficult conversations, which is tied very closely to our EdEval system. We continue to seek out any sorts of professional development with STEM and work closely with WPI around that. We provide anti-bullying and mandated trainings, whether that's through the Massachusetts Aggression Reduction Center or other vendors that we find. This year, we are actually providing a course outside of the school day. It runs for 6 weeks. Teachers have volunteered to take that course. It's an hour a week for 6 weeks, writing across the content areas, and that is being offered through Keys to Literacy, and we have 20-plus teachers participating in that. And then the PARCC testing, which this year in the spring we will administer instead of MCATs. We will need to provide professional development for our administrators as well as our teachers, and some of that has already begun. As we look forward and in line with the strategic plan, we look to provide an even more differentiated system of PD to tie even more closely to the EdEval system. We will need to provide professional development around the new math program next year when it's adopted in K to 5. We look to offer more after-school offerings, as we're doing for the writing across the content areas. And we're looking to find a way to bring some summer institutes to Auburn, which are 2-week courses that we provide to teachers in the summer. And based on a recent survey that we conducted of all of our staff, we aim to continue our March Day, which is a truly collaborative professional development day. All of those accomplishments and initiatives that I spoke about, really, I want you all to know, is a direct result of not only the Teaching, Learning, and Curriculum Department. It is really the result of an entire commitment and passion for education for the Auburn Public Schools team. So these are the Teaching, Learning, and Curriculum support costs. As you can see, the majority have stayed the same. There is a slight increase with system-wide classroom supplies from $10,000 to $12,000 based on the trends of past spending as well as what has been spent thus far this year. System-wide professional development, we're increasing by $5,000 so that we can afford more of those after-school opportunities in the summer institutes. And the other change is around system-wide textbooks. That $220,000 was in place so that we could buy the math textbooks that we plan to do before the end of the school year. And we now have a new line item, system-wide ebooks, with all of the iPads and technology available in the district. We know we'll be moving towards more availability for our students of ebooks. And in addition, we have some ELL support costs for our English language learning program. Translations is up $1,000 based on the requests we have gotten already this year. Teaching supplies, again, I mentioned that we had bought some for the high school and that going forward next year we would look for K-5, so there's an increase there. Testing supplies, this year we have spent $500 plus, so we have increased that to $1,000 for next year. And because we were so generous to support an ELL tutor at every school, our travel costs have been decreased. So I thank you for your continued support of these budgets, and I will answer any questions that you may have.
Are there any questions?
I have one.
Gail?
On the tutors that are each school, are they full-time employees?
Yes.
So if a teacher needs help during the day with an issue where she can't understand,
Yes,
that person is
absolutely.
there to help?
The ELL tutor,
Wonderful.
yes. They're in the classrooms, they consult with teachers, they have some pull-out. Yes, it's
Oh, that's
wonderful
wonderful.
to have that.
Any other questions?
Actually, just because of the marked difference between textbook costs moving into the iPad program, I'm just noticing that the translations, that it's an increased cost. Is there an opportunity to kind of look for ebooks that might have the appropriate translations that you would require, or?
Good
Is it
question. Most of
completely
this
separate?
these translation costs really go to translating letters that go home
Oh, okay.
to the parents.
Okay.
Oftentimes, we'll have an IEP meeting where we need an interpreter to come and translate for the parents, so that's really what that reflects.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
Yeah, question.
Desi?
Can you just tell me again what WIDA stands for?
Oh, sure.
Standards around.
I used to know this. So it is.
I thought you said it in your presentation.
I-
Standards around.
Well, it is,
something.
they are the new standards for our English language learners.
Okay.
And I'm not going to be able to retrieve that. World-class instructional design and assessment. Thank you for getting me started.
Any other questions? Could you just tell me about the adoption of the new math programs at various levels? Is that something to do with PARCC testing, or is it just that we found a better program than we had before?
It actually has to do with the Common Core state standards. The series we had in place was not aligned, and so we needed to look for a series that was aligned. And being aligned, hopefully, it will translate into the PARCC testing as well. We believe we're teaching those standards that our students will be successful on PARCC. And in addition, we'll be training our students around some of those specific skill sets that they need to actually do the PARCC, the technology pieces.
Okay, and just one follow-up to that. If there is a low score in an area of the PARCC test, or if there was a low score in an area of the MCAS, what do we do as far as reevaluating? Taking these students, taking them aside, do we reevaluate them? Does the teacher work with them a little extra? Do we give them another test of our own?
Well, I think you'll hear more about this tomorrow night, but we are continually assessing our students, both formatively and summatively. So we do look at the MCAS data, but we have a lot of benchmarking tests. We give pre-tests at the beginning of the year, then a midterm test and an end of the year, so that helps us also target their weaknesses. DIBELS and DRA are used at the elementary, and when we see that our students are not making the growth that we expect, then we put a different intervention in place, and then we progress monitor that for about 6 weeks to decide whether that's working or if we need an alternative approach.
Okay, so there's not a specific, we'll call it MCAS remediation or park remediation where we're just gonna pull
Well,
someone out?
there are those as well. So I know at the high school, they have a grant to help them work towards MCAS remediation. We use some of our Title I funds at both the elementary and the middle school to provide additional services for those students. So we might have a before-school MCAS prep program that begins around December or January. At the middle school, we have a Math 2, which helps to support those students, but we also this year are going to offer some before-school assistance as well.
Okay, excellent, that's all I have. Thank you.
You're welcome. So I'll pass the baton to Mr. Barber.
Good evening, everybody. As a school business manager, I'll be presenting primarily the business and financial services aspects of our fiscal year 16 budget. A lot of the information that we're going to be discussing, or that I'll be discussing, in essence, are follow-ups to Dr. Brunel, but then also have the overall aspects of in essence, the overall budget for the entire Auburn Public Schools, excuse me. Some of the main budgetary considerations, for those of you that aren't aware of it, is that in addition to town appropriations that we receive, we also receive what's called state fundings, and that's our Chapter 70 that we're entitled. That for fiscal year 16, at this particular point in time in the fiscal year, seems to be pretty balanced. We don't expect any potential increases or decreases, especially at the point in time that we are currently in the fiscal year. It's kind of hard to make a determination when a lot of these numbers unfortunately come out further into our current fiscal year, maybe more towards like April and May of next year. Okay. In addition, we utilize what's called the French River Education Center, or the FREC. It's a collaborative that allows for us to expand a lot of our contracts that we use, specifically for our classroom and office supplies, our custodial supplies, computer supplies, and utility costs. This allows for us as a district with, for instance, 2,400 students in next year 5 schools, this year 6 schools. It allows for us to almost barter with the vendors as a collaborative with other school districts that are pretty much equal in size. So being able to gather 2 or 3 districts of our same size and school district comparisons allows us to get a contract almost as if we were a bigger contract. Okay. In addition, we have our revolving fund revenues that we're anticipating to be next year very similar to what we have for fiscal year 15. Those revenues are items that we utilize to incur some of the costs that are offsets rather than implementing them purely through our general fund budget. Also, we have what's called our circuit breaker. This is used for offsets to our special educational costs, and it allows for us also to decrease our fiscal year 16 anticipated costs. That is expected to be a reduction from this year. That's primarily because we're anticipating a reduction of eligible students in our participant enrollments, and that's unfortunately provided to us in a following year. So our 2015 students would allow for us to receive what our fiscal year 16 allocation would be. Okay. We also utilize what's called E-rate, and E-rate funding is we're expecting a modification to our E-rate funding in fiscal year 16. This is because they're planning on, the state is, excluding telephones, but they will be including other costs such as Wi-Fi, and especially with our district being the size and what we utilize it for, and I'm sure you'll find out in a little while by our IT director, is that we utilize Wi-Fi quite a bit. So even though we're losing the offset of the telephones and so forth, we should have a nice balance by being able to include the Wi-Fi in the next fiscal year. Okay. From an overall perspective for all of our district-wide staff, we will be seeing, or we will be requesting from our technology support position an increase of 0.5 FTE. One of these reasons for this position to be requested is because we're anticipating on having a lot of modifications to next year's IT with respect to having the iPads coming in this current fiscal year. Next year, as Dr. Brunel indicated earlier, we're anticipating going from just covering 2 school classrooms, or 2 class sizes, I mean, to basically covering the entire 6th to 12th grade. And so by having that large of an increase with iPads, the additional staff member would obviously be a major benefit to that, in addition to the other IT costs that are going to be incurred, especially with having relocation of, as indicated before, the middle school to the new building, and then obviously relocations of a couple of the elementary schools. I'm sure there's going to be some other utility things and technology items that will be coming up. On your budget proposal that you'll be seeing tomorrow, you'll be able to identify a handful of the items that are going to be specifically larger increases or decreases or modifications. And so these are some of the items that you'll be more noticeable in the overall budget. Again, this is for the entire district side. Number one would be regular education for transportation. Our contracts are going to be going out as of June 30th. Our contracts expire. So we're in the process of going out and actually starting up at the end of this month, going out and starting up to do our proposals for hopefully a minimum of our bid requests from other vendors to kind of see where we'll be looking at for a new contract being put in effect effectively for July 1st and then going forward. This will probably be on a 3-year contract just for informational purposes. But with that being the case, we've already done some research and kind of going out with that and identified that some of the other local districts that have already renewed their contracts effectively for fiscal year 15, they have had some recent increases that are anywhere from a 10 to 20% over what their current rates are. Okay. In addition to that, and I know Dr. Brunel had mentioned a little while ago, was also potentially increasing our buses from a 10 bus to an 11 buses for the school district, predominantly for the middle school, and then obviously also with the relocation of the elementary schools, that could obviously also be an impact. Obligated teacher retirement payouts. These are increases based on what we received by October 1st, which are requests or submittals that we receive under the contractual obligation of the AEA. This identifies who we anticipate to have for retirements in the upcoming fiscal year. And doing these, obviously, these numbers come into play as far as identifying what our anticipated costs will be for the upcoming fiscal year. In addition to retirements, we also have staff that during the course of their work, they obviously decide that maybe instead of a bachelor's degree, they're going to go back for a doctorate degree or different varieties of changes of that nature. Those degree changes also impact their respective salaries that they're entitled to. And so with that being the case, we also anticipate from an October 1st submittal that we will have an anticipated degree change of a certain amount that you'll see respectively in the budget document tomorrow. Other contractual obligations are pretty much increases that are determined upon the anticipated number of employment contracts that are coming up. For instance, we have our teachers' contracts, our ABA contracts, our nursing contracts that are all expiring at the end of this fiscal year. So with that being the case, we identified what we anticipate for some potential increases. We also have predominantly all of our administrator contracts that are annual contracts that will come into place, as well as what we anticipate for potentially that transportation increase. For informational perspectives, we have various forms of offsets. Again, some of these items have already been brought up, but for instance, we utilize our circuit breaker. Circuit breaker are state reimbursements that basically we receive determined by the number of students that we have that are under disabilities. And for next fiscal year, we're projecting at approximately a 60%. For federal grants, we project basically our federal revenues or federal fundings that we're going to be able to use to offset some of the costs respectively that we would usually have to identify under our general funds. Some of our primary federal grants that we have are Title I, Title IIA, or IDEA grants. We also utilize school choice. And so as indicated, when you have students that are coming in from another school district, specifically for us, we have the eligibility of our middle school and our high school. These accumulated reimbursements for our enrolled students that are non-residents of Auburn, we get to utilize towards offsetting costs for our budget. We also identified Medicaid. Again, these are, for instance, for the larger offsets that we have. But with Medicaid, these are accumulated reimbursements, providing medical necessary Medicaid services, direct services to eligible Mass Health enrolled children that we have within the school district as well. Okay. For informational purposes, last fiscal year, in fiscal year 2015, that we're currently actively in, we had projected offsets of approximately 1.976, where next year we're anticipating at approximately 1,996,000. So it's very comparative between fiscal year 15, what we have, versus what we're anticipating for offsets for next year as well. That's primarily all of the items that I have. Do you have any questions?
Are there any questions?
Just one.
Sure.
Yeah.
How much do we get for each school choice student that comes in? Is it like 5,000 or?
I believe it's 5,000 per each student respectively.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
Yeah, I have a question.
Jessica.
The degree changes that you mentioned, that is set by the state, right? Like they would require the teachers to get their masters and so on, and then their, yeah, is that?
No, they're basically, say for instance, you have a teacher that has a bachelor's degree.
Yeah.
And they decided that they're going to go back to school respectively to get a higher degree of their education. So they might have, again, I'm just using a bachelor's degree with 15 years of experience. They might decide, because they've been at that particular level for 15 years, they go back to college and they get their master's degree. By getting that additional education and getting literally an increase in their educational background, that allows them to get a different step in the teacher's contract, moving them from a bachelor's at 15 to, for instance, a master's degree at 15 step level. And so it's all based on their educational background and what their certification
Yeah, but they
levels are.
have to get a master's.
Correct.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
So, and that's like a standard from the state, like the state is mandating that. So will the state cover the cost of that increase?
No.
Yeah, so I'm just curious, so we would have to cover that,
Yeah.
yeah, okay.
Sorry.
Any other questions? Thank you, Mr. Barber.
Thank you very much. I'll be turning it over to Dr. Brunel to speak on behalf of the Pupil Services.
Thank you. So on behalf of Ms. Kaufman, I will present to you Pupil Services. As mentioned in some of the other comments made by those who have spoken already, we really have made a very strong commitment across the district to inclusion, and that, I believe, is very much facilitated by the co-teaching work and training that's happened. It really is a very successful model that we're seeing in each of our schools, and I give huge credit to the teachers who have participated in that training, Dr. Lozay for bringing it here, Mrs. Kaufman, and all of the principals who are really supporting that effort. It's really a good thing by students. I will tell you that we have just charged a subcommittee to work to really look at what is the impact that co-teaching is having on our students, and also to look at, are we doing everything we can to support, because that's one of our challenge areas that remains in terms of MCAS, the special education subgroup. So to really delve deeply into, are we doing enough, or are there some things that perhaps we can do even a little bit more, or to tweak them marginally? We have made a strong effort to keep students in district, assuming that we can support them appropriately. We look to always if we can create an opportunity to do so, but you'll see that later when I present the non-public transportation for our out-of-district students, that number has been reduced because it's going to be required less for students leaving the schools. The Pupil Services Department, as well as the entire Auburn Public Schools, really works in collaboration with a number of different organizations, probably most notably Auburn Youth and Family Services here in Auburn, that we're very fortunate to have. We reported to you last year that through a SHINE grant of $5,000, which was a collaboration between AYFS and the Auburn Public Schools, to really assist some of our students who are requiring some mental health supports. The alternative education program at Auburn High School has a new teacher this year, and we've been doing an awful lot of work around, are we addressing the needs of those students in there? One of our goals is we want all of our students to graduate from high school, and the traditional program that is offered may not be appropriate or be able to be fully accessed by some of our students. So this alternative program helps to do that. The extended school year program, we've had that for a number of years during the summer, as well as the remedial program that we have at elementary and the young engineers at middle school and course recovery, credit recovery at the high school. And also the summer internships. We shared with you information about that at a recent meeting and the success of that, both in working with our summer school program and the technology department itself. Ms. Kaufman's intention, the goals for next school year with the new Pupil Services Director, if you remember, she's an interim position, to work very closely with Dr. Lozay in really assessing and expanding upon the co-teaching model that we have in place. We are always looking to increase our capacity to serve the needs of students regardless of what they are in the public schools, assuming we can do so safely and appropriately. Strengthen our partnerships with early intervention. Mrs. Chase recently coordinated a meeting, it was on Monday, and early intervention was there, as well as representatives from a number of different school districts in ours as well in terms of preschool, as we know that getting to our students and supporting them as early as possible reaps long and deep benefits for us. And then also making sure that we strengthen the transitions for students as they get ready to turn age 22 and go out, hopefully, to be successfully and gainfully employed. In terms of district-wide positions, currently this year we have 14 across the district, and these could range from school psychologist to team chairperson, speech-language pathologist, and such. We are looking to add one position, and this is primarily to bring on a school psychologist at the elementary school level. Currently, the school psychologist services in total approximately about 1,100 or 1,200 students, not all of them requiring testing, but it is a major caseload. So here in terms of costs, what you see in the comparison between 15 and 16, a couple that I want to point out to you. Some of them just result in anticipated tuition changes that may result. But you'll notice that the tuition for non-public schools does see a decrease there of approximately $50,000 or so, and that's due to, we anticipate having reduced costs. The collaborative tuition's at $200,000 this year. The $137,000 actually holds 5 slots for us next year, should students require them. Homebound, and we have students who need them. Homebound tutoring support. This was actually a line that you saw in previous years split partially in the district budget as well as in the high school. But what we're realizing is that, and we're going to make it one line item for the entire district, because students can, if they get hurt and are in the hospital, we're required after a certain number of days to provide home tutoring to them. The contracted services line, this is, you also see a reduction here of about $23,000. This provides, whether it's a mobility specialist to come in and provide support to students who need it. We also have physical therapy support services that come in and the like. Classroom supplies remains the same. The in-district costs, as Mr. Barber noted, we will be going out to bid for these costs. But the out-of-district costs here, you can see that it's a $40,000 reduction in that, based on the number of students that will be going out next year. So overall, it's about a $130,000 decrease in the request for the pupil services budget. I would be happy to answer any questions if you have them.
Are there any questions?
I've got one.
Yeah.
Why did the homeless transportation projection go up so much?
Oh, thank you, I skipped right over that. So in the past, you know that we get funding from the, we have to pay the costs, and then we
Right.
seek reimbursement the next year from town meeting, and they generously supported that. This year, we received $623, because that's what our costs were last year. Already, this school year, providing homeless transportation, we're well over $5,000. Just in these first 3 months of school.
Oh.
So this is based on a projection of that. Now, once we get it put in here, and then we would seek next year for a reimbursement of that money, but we need to have a funding source to pay for it as the needs arise. That's really
Thank
the
you.
reason, yes, and I apologize for skipping that, so thank you.
Mr. Page?
The only thing I had to say, with the special education budget, it's a hard thing to do, but do you really feel comfortable with the numbers with this?
In terms
I
of those that have
The
been
whole budget,
reduced?
yeah.
Yeah, you know, what we do for any of our numbers here, we base it off of the students that we know currently to be in place.
Right.
So this is without a doubt, one of the most volatile portions of the budget,
Right, that's
because
all.
if someone were to move in and have some really significant needs, we're obligated to pay for that. What I would remind us of, though, is several years ago, town meetings set $100,000 in a fund, really to help for unexpected special education costs. So that's there as in case we need it, but, you know, this is the practice that we've employed each year to make sure that we're providing for the students that we know of currently, and if a change comes in, we'd have to address it.
Thank you very much.
Yes.
You're welcome.
Any other questions? Thank you, Dr. Brunel.
So with that, I will turn it over to Mr. Fahey, our outstanding Director of Facilities.
Good evening, everyone.
Good
Good
evening.
evening, Joe.
The hardest part for me is going to go through these slides.
Excuse me.
Accomplishments. As you know, we installed a new playground at 10 Swanson Road, and you can notice in the background, you really can't even see it, but you see an upgraded fence that we did put in, you see the parking lot. The parking lot is a huge asset, not only to the school, but to the whole community. If you go by this place on a Saturday, They get soccer going on. It just, it looks good. It really does. So it's a huge asset to the whole town. Other accomplishments, long overdue. We're getting our chillers installed at Auburn High School, and we have 2 chillers there. One is a 52-ton chiller, the other one is an 80-ton chiller. And I have to name the 80-ton chiller after Shirley D. Pasquale. She was a teacher that just retired, and she patiently every year would say, "When's it coming? When's it coming?" So, with that being said, we got, we got a lot of money from MSBA, $436,000, $200,000 in our CIP. Total project, $630,000 roughly, not counting a very lucrative National Grid rebate. So, very excited. I'm loading all these things into one because I'm told I can't have too many slides. And I could tell you about each kilowatt from each location, but I'll just go right to the punch. All these combined, the one on the left is, we get $72,000 that was reappropriated from previous CIP accounts from Judy Bancroft and Mary D. Stone. What we're able to do with that, it was reappropriated to the high school. We not only did the lighting upgrade in the gymnasium, which reduced our lights from 60 down to 48, put in occupancy sensors. It makes, if you're the first one in the gym, it makes you look like you're a movie star. As you're coming in, the sensors are actually coming on. So it's a huge cost savings. To the right, the Hall of Fame wing, that was incorporated in the same project, along with the 21 lights in the atrium, along with the library. So all these combined, approximately is 137,000 kilowatts, which is equivalent to the month of September for our electric bill. So that's the savings that we did, roughly $30,000 a month, a savings. Very impressive. So with that, you're going to say, well, why are we going up with electric? Again, we have our 2 new chillers that are going to be on the roof and be running in the springtime. But this is our support costs. So I can go over to you line by line. Natural gas, slight increase, $66,066. Electrical, we've all read this in the paper. It went up, 39%, $203,378. Our water went down slightly. Our sewage, got to pay the Blackstone. What goes in goes out. Telephone, slight increase. Building repair and maintenance, we went from $69,000 to $75,000, and that is really to support our added equipment that we have in our buildings now. Field maintenance, we talk about it every year. Our warranty is finally, we've expended our warranty, so it's now on our dime. So between the school department, hopefully we'll get some rentals, DPW, we'll be able to maintain our fields. Custodial supplies, as Mr. Barber says, we take the benefit from the French River, collaborative purchasing. That number stays the same. Total, $391,431. Here we go, a brand new school. A brand new school, we're going to be having propane. So we're not going to be having natural gas, not going to be having oil. $77,500. Estimated slightly high. I'm saying slightly. It's based on $2.50 LP gallon. So they're projecting that we're going to use roughly 37,000 gallons of propane. We're going to be having 5 underground tanks, 1,000-gallon tanks. The electric, 172,000. Again, that number is slightly high. Hopefully history won't repeat itself when we open up our new high school. Those of you that have been around, what we were told and what we actually, occurred with 2 different numbers. We went over and over again with this with Lamar Pagano, and we're fortunate actually to have Seaman Engineering, who's a third generation Auburn resident. I mean, he's committing to this. So I'm taking Kevin at his word for it. for these numbers. The important thing, too, that you have to realize here is that we're not going to be playing the stock market, but we're going to be able to have the benefit of using electric heat pumps. So, and they will actually give us our air conditioning and also give us our heat. So if propane starts to escalate and our electric rates happen to go down, we can kind of switch over. So it's a pretty good benefit. Water, we're kind of keeping the same rates that we kept at the old middle school. Again, what goes in goes out. Telephone, $2,000. Building repair and maintenance, I know the question's going to come up, well, brand new building, why are we putting $10,000 in? Again, if history repeats itself, when we opened up our high school in 2006, we had zero, because brand new building, nothing should cost us anything, but we're going to have costs. Things are going to, even though it's brand new, we're still going to have costs. We'll have to pay for them up front, go through the warranty process, but we feel that we still have to keep a number in there. Custodial supplies, again, keeping the same history that we did with the same amount of students at the middle school, 9,000. So total budget, 280,000. The merge. We do this every year. We budgeted $4 a gallon for fuel. It's a little high, but we have no idea. Right now, the market's trading at $2.93 a gallon. We're locked in, I believe we're locked in at $3.09 for this year. So, again, through the French River, that's set to go out to bid. So we're hoping, I'm sure we'll get a number lower than 4, but again, we always keep that 4 in there. So what's held true is the amount of gallons that we use, building per building. So middle school, it's roughly, we use just under 20,000 gallons, which is pretty good. Electrical, slight increase. Water, the same. Sewage, again, what goes in goes out. However, it is a little bit lower because we do have a sprinkler system there, so we do get a credit through there. Building maintenance repair, 30,000, slightly elevated, mainly because we're installing more equipment at the middle school for the merge. We're in a process of putting heat pumps in second floor of the middle school. Again, we should have that same option. Use electric, use oil. So we're pretty excited about that. Custodial supply, basically it's 2 schools coming together. That's true of that number. Relocation costs, we put in $10,000. Again, as Dr. Bonnell stated, we're happy we got that letter from the Worcester County Sheriff's Department regarding helping us with the move. We're also in the process of putting it out to bid with the moving company to offset that as well. So, again, grand total 192, 356. Packagug. The reason why you see that low number, natural gas, half the price of oil. I'm an oil guy, so it's hard for me to even say that, but it is what it is. Electric, slight increase. Water, again, these are going to be the kids from Mary D coming up to Packagug. Slightly lower. Sewage goes in, goes up. Telephone basically stays the same. Maintenance, slight increase because we're putting new equipment in there as well. Custodial supply is dipped down a little bit, just because of we'll just call it the little foot traffic. Smaller kids. That's all I can say. Relocation cost $5,000. Total $81,511. Bremont. Again, we used the $4 number for fuel. This past year, I believe we used, roughly, it was under 9,000. So they're very conservative, which is good. Electric, again, we went up with the percentage. Water is basically low. Sewage, starting to love to say it, what goes in goes out. Telephone, 600. Well, obviously we have a couple more lines we have to put in there, so that's what drove that cost up a little bit. Building repair and maintenance, again, more equipment's going in, need to maintain that as well. And again, our custodial supplies stay the same, $86,152. Central office, roughly we go through 10,000 gallons of oil, give or take. Our electrical slight increase, our water, hopefully no one from the fire department was watching, they actually get our bill for that. So, I'll say it anyways, what goes in goes out. The offset there is actually, we support the electrical, so that's the trade-off. We have one meter that does this building, so rather than putting another meter over there, that's the trade-off. We pay the electric, they do our water and sewage. Telephone, again, it's district-wide. Building repair and maintenance, pretty much consistent. Custodial supplies, $70,943. District-wide support costs. We just put this line item in last year, building security. I don't think I need to say any more about it. It's certainly needed in today's day and age. Equipment repairs, slightly kept it the same. Equipment service and contracts, $45,000. That does our copiers, it does our RICOs, it does a lot of our elevator contracts, things of that nature. Fire extinguisher inspections, pretty much the same year in and year out. Maintenance staff, we put that in every year. A lot of my guys, they don't put in for it, but I'm afraid if I don't put it in and they put in for it, I have to do it. Truck maintenance and gas. Last year, this is what we spent, almost $3,000. Every year we put in $4,000. You don't know what's going to break. Custodial overtime. This is for our snow. You know, it's not a luxury overtime. This is for our snow removal. It's going to help offset some of our moves. Grand total, $88,579. This is the big one that you guys are all waiting for. With the closing down of the two schools, the last two slides. Again, we can't just mothball these two buildings. We have to, we have to preserve our assets for the town. So that's why you see this number. Basically, what we did is we cut it in half. Dewey Bankoff especially, we have two buildings combined into one. There's two of everything. So $9,000 for gas, electrical $10,000, water, there won't be much going out. Telephone, have to keep a bare minimum, for burglar, for security. That's why there has to be some things running. Building repair and maintenance, custodial supply would be $0. And again, building repair and maintenance, things are still going to break, and and the reason why people are probably saying, well, why are you still getting $10,000 for electric? There's a lot of phantom, electricity that's in a building. You get transformers that constantly keep running, that constantly require power. Power is energy. Power is money. So $21,900. 10 Church Street. Again, we go off of $4 a gallon, so you're looking at 8,000 gallons. We cut that in half. Again, we get two of everything. We reduced the electrical down to 5,000, the water 200, the sewer 100. These are just the bare minimums that you need to operate the building. Things are still going to break, and hopefully we won't be able to use it, but it's there if we need it. Custodial supplies, those are zeroed out. They actually go up to their respective schools. So it brings us a grand total of $40,300. And that's it. Any questions?
Are there any questions?
I have one.
Gail?
How long do we have to continue to carry JB and Mary D. Stone in our budgets? Until the town accepts them physically, or?
Well, I think right now, I'll let Dr. Bennell speak to that, but I believe it's because we know our buildings are going to be open up on time, on budget.
Right.
But we can't surrender.
I know that.
Prior to that. I believe, I might be mistaken, but I think we have to carry it at least a year.
We had early on, even last year, communication with Ms. Town Manager Jacobson and CFO Kazanovich, and recognized that there would be some costs, at least for this first year. So, whether it is paid out of the town budget or the school budget, we just wanted to be sure to reflect that. So I think that discussion can still be had, but once they formally accept it, then the cost would be theirs, but we need
Until
to have
then.
some value.
Okay,
Yep.
thank you.
Any other questions? I have one question, Joe, and you didn't even mention it, but I'm gonna throw it at you anyway. Storage fees, Mary Ellen had mentioned that earlier. What are we storing?
Storage fees for the move?
Yeah, isn't that something that you said, Dr. Brunel?
Yeah, currently, right now, what we're doing is we're having our lovely principals, find a room in their buildings without any disruption into their classrooms. As their trimester ends, they're to take their stuff that they would do for that trimester, pack it up, label it. We already have a sequence of operation on how we're actually going to make that actually happen. But as far as the physical space, if they can't find it in their spot, it will go back to our responsibility to see if we can't find something.
I did not intend to say storage, it's really just for transportation
Okay.
and costs and things. So we're hoping we're not gonna need to store. We've got it mapped out and continue to refine it so that, we need to empty our middle school first, and then PAC needs to get emptied next so that Mary D's things can go up, and then JB's things can come over. So we'll have storage areas, but I don't anticipate that there would be any significant cost to that.
Okay, yeah, that's.
So in other words, the storage, what we're gonna do is we have to empty out the middle school, obviously, first. Middle school will get emptied, and the excess equipment, desks and so on and so forth, will get transported to most likely Julia Bancroft, right? Because that building will be empty.
Yep.
That goes there, right? Now the equipment from JB goes up to the middle school, Packagug goes to the middle school, Mary D comes up to Packagug. I'm making it sound very easy, but you know what? I got some reassurance today with the work of the sheriff's department, and also we're going through the state bid list as far as contracting some movers, and the mover guy I met today, that was my excuse why I didn't go to the leadership meeting today, guys. I met with the mover, and he basically says, I can get you in and out of the middle school in 2 days. So, and they do work with the sheriff's department as far as coordinating that type. I haven't shared this yet with the superintendent, but it was, I hated to miss the meeting, guys, but it was well worth it. So between
2 days,
them,
wow.
and they also, to answer your question regarding storage, they also have locations if things do have to be stored.
Okay. From previous experience, just make sure one of your guys is there telling them where to put the stuff, because otherwise it's gonna cost another $10,000 to get it to the correct rooms. I've seen it recently.
Okay.
But, is that it? No,
Yeah.
great presentation,
Thank you.
John. I'm glad
Thank
that
you.
we're not renting any storage units, because I figured we had a couple empty buildings we could use.
Correct. Correct.
Very
With
good.
that, I'll turn it over to Mr. Bouvier, our Director of Technology.
Good evening. All right, so I am last on the evening for the budget presentations, and I always start every year with this same slide highlighting the 5 components of what I see make up a strong technology program. And all of them are crucial for us, and all of them are important that we continue to support equally, because failure in any of them can mean the failure of a technology program. Infrastructure is vital to everything that we do. Every piece of technology sits on our infrastructure, from Wi-Fi to servers to switches to internet capacity. All of it exists on our infrastructure. The hardware and software that everyone's familiar with, computers, programs, iPads, apps. Technical support, that's more than just break fix, it's supporting users with new ideas or classroom support. There's a lot of ways that we support our users, more than just something breaks and we're going to fix it. Technology integration, what happens in the classroom when the technology gets there. It might be one of the most important pieces of this, because ultimately everything that we're doing with technology is related towards supporting education and professional development, which we work very closely with Kathy and all the principals to ensure that we provide a lot of professional development for staff, and we continue to make sure that they are kept abreast of the latest developments and things that we think can help them in their classrooms. So last year's accomplishments, it was a pretty big year for us. The iPad initiative was a significant, being able to move forward with an iPad initiative was a significant accomplishment for Auburn, and I think we all realize that, and we're all very proud of the fact that our 8th and 9th grade students are going home each night with iPads and bringing them back in and using them in their classrooms. Along with that, we were also able to provide iPads to all of our teachers in grades 6 to 12. That's not just for them to use every day, but also for them to get comfortable with, so that when we expand our iPad program, they are used to working with iPads and everything that comes along with them. Successful pilot implementation of the PARCC test. The PARCC test that we administered at JB and PAC was done online, and it was a significant undertaking for us. We had never had to give an online test of that magnitude before. It was very intense on our network, and the setup and the security that had to go into providing that test was significant. And while there were some bumps in the road initially and not entirely of our doing, we've gotten through that, and by the end of our pilot, things were going pretty smoothly. And we look forward to ramping that up on a bigger scale this year as we continue to increase our PARCC testing. And expansion of wireless networks at high school and middle school. We had to do that in relation to the new iPad program. We are finding everything's going wireless. I don't think anyone's surprised by that. So the demand on our wireless network is continue to increase each and every year. That means more access points. That means more internet behind it. It means a lot more infrastructure power behind it. It is utterly amazing to see the amount of wireless devices that exist in our school when you take into account the iPads that we provide, the devices that people bring with them into the building, the just every device that now connects our laptops that we provide in the building. There are times when we've got thousands of devices sitting on our network, and we have to make sure that they all function. They all function when all the time and at an appropriate speed. And it is a challenge. So going into the next fiscal year, probably our biggest goal is to expand the one-to-one program for grades 6 to 12. That is a add of about 1,000 iPads to our current inventory. That is huge, and it will require significant work along the way to make sure that we have the infrastructure behind it, the professional development for the teachers, the support necessary to help those people once they get the devices in their hands. There's a lot that goes into expanding that one-to-one program. We've learned a lot of lessons so far as we've done it on a smaller scale that we're going to apply to the bigger implementation. But we are very excited about it, and it truly is something that a few years ago we never would have thought possible. Facilitating the transition of staff and students to new buildings and locations. We have a big part in this. All of our buildings are technology rich. We're taking 2 buildings offline. We want to ensure that the best technology that's available to our staff and students, no matter which building they are in, are available to our students. If that means moving technology from JB to Bryn Mawr or to 10 Swanson Road, we're going to ensure that the best of our technology is available to our students, and that's going to take some careful planning and some work unbolting equipment and moving things around, but we're committed to making that happen. Adding the half-time technology assistant position is truly vital. Like I said, we're adding 1,000 new devices to our network, minimum. That's before we look at the rest of the computers and the rest of the technology that's going to happen at the new building. So there is a lot of new technology coming on board. We do need all the help we can get to make sure that we not only can get everything up and running, but that we can keep it running and support the users once it's in place. Increasing instructional technology opportunities for all students. We work hard with teachers to make sure that we can help them offer students the opportunity to really use technology in their classrooms. Whether that's kindergarten classrooms or 12th grade classrooms, whatever it is, anywhere in between. We work with principals, we work with teachers to make sure that we can help them prepare and implement the lessons that they need in their classrooms, and provide quality technology experiences for their kids. And provide timely technical support for all staff and students. It's truly a challenge with the sprawling technology that we have. We have a lot of it, and we're proud of that. And we have a lot of users using it, which is even better. But we have to make sure that it's all running. We have to make sure that all their questions are answered. We have to make sure that they have the skills necessary to utilize it. So providing that technical support is a challenge. And hopefully, with the addition of the half-time position, we'll be able to get better at that. Technology proposed cost for next year. You're going to see some that come down. I think it's important to know that we are always evaluating the technology program and looking at what our true needs are. The supplies come down. A lot of that's just the day-to-day stuff. We have new buildings coming in. We're going to have a surplus of some equipment through JB and Mary D. So that's a number we're comfortable with. You're not going to see a change till you get to computer maintenance. Computer maintenance is a line item that we use for, it's for hardware support lines. So we have a firewall, we need to pay support and updates on that firewall. That's that line. It's internet costs. It's that's what that number signifies. Computer software is the actual software that's being used in the classroom. That number's come down. We've done a lot of work with the Director of Technology, Director of Curriculum, to look at the software programs that we're using. We've modified the amount of licenses that we have in many cases to align with our true usage patterns, and with the shift to iPads and some free apps, we're able to adjust how we're utilizing our software. And there's also been a major shift to more cloud-based resources for some of these, which has driven our costs down for certain items as well. So that number has come down. We're happy with that, and it doesn't mean it's a loss of services for the kids. In a lot of cases, it's just realigning how we're doing things. So we're pretty comfortable with that, and that's our technology budget. Before I answer your questions, the final slide of the evening is starts with this quote: "High expectations are the key to everything," by Sam Walton. I think you can see through these pictures we've had a lot of successes through the past year, and we're very proud of all of our accomplishments, and we look forward to continuing them and having even more and exciting pictures next year to show you. But do I have any questions?
Are there any questions? Wayne?
I don't really have much of a question, but I know since I got on the school committee that the technology has boomed, and I mean boomed, big time, and to have you do a presentation and lower your budget kind of shocks me. It's like all this technology that's out there, and you're regrouping everything from old school, new school, and everything else. It just amazes me how you can go back down on your budget, that's all. Thank you.
No problem.
Any other questions? I have one or two.
Okay.
Just the first question I would say before we even talk about that 0.5 technical support person. Ideally, how many technical support people would you like to have? What would be the perfect number? And be generous to yourself.
Well, I can tell you that we've always looked at the business world as sort of having a technology person per every 100 users or 50 devices. Now, we know we're never going to get there, and we probably don't necessarily need that. Right now, my department consists of myself, a network person who is new to our staff. I'm sure you know that. We have a data person, and we have the half-time person who has mainly been managing the iPads. Ideally, we could use more staff. I'm not prepared to tell you an exact number right now, but I think we'd like to see additional staff come on to support the instructional part of it as well, and we're careful to make sure that we accomplish as much of that as possible right now.
Okay.
But I can't tell you exactly how many I'd like, I mean.
All right, well, if you don't want to take advantage of my wish list, that doesn't exist, by the way. But, no, I understand the importance of it. One incident can ruin a whole lesson for the day. So, times 10, times 20, if the system goes down and you're in one place and we need someone at another building, we need someone over at the middle school, that's my concern. So my second question is, what type of a professional are we going to get for a part-time position?
It's actually, we currently have a part-time position, so it would be increasing her load to a full-time position.
Oh,
So
okay.
for
Okay.
us, it's, that person's already on staff.
Okay, excellent.
So.
Well,
But I think ideally, it'd be great to have one person in every building to kind of circle back. But
It
we're
would.
not there right now, and we do pretty well.
What about co-op opportunities through colleges?
Actually, last year, we worked with 3 different interns from Quinsigamond College for periods of time.
Okay.
They came in and for 6 to 8 weeks provided us with a couple of days of work a week. And for the most part, they were pretty beneficial. It takes a lot of training to get people on board and get them up to speed. That's the downside about interns. You take a couple of weeks to get them going, and then before you know it, they're out the door. But we're happy to take them on when they're available to us. And we've utilized students in the summer as an alternative as well, and that has been a successful program for us. We've done that for 3 years. So anything we can do to bring more support on board, we do definitely try to address that.
Okay, well, don't hesitate to come to us and ask. I'm not discounting what everyone else does on the leadership team and in the classrooms, but I just know that the more we push the technology, the more we need. And I hate to see anyone coming up short. As I said, delivering a lesson, you have your lesson plan for that day, technology goes down, and you're all done. So don't ever hesitate to come to us with that. If it's something that we're expecting our staff to do, then we need to equip them.
Okay.
All right?
I appreciate that.
Thank you for your
Thank you.
presentation.
Thanks.
Thank you.
And that concludes our presentations, Dr. Brunel?
It does. That concludes the budget presentations for tonight.
Okay. Shall we say goodbye to the leadership team?
I think
good
they
night.
would be quite pleased if you did.
Thank
Let
you
them
all
go
for
home. It's
coming.
just a guess, though.
We'll see you real soon. Have a great night.
Oh, your stuff, yeah. Thanks, everybody, very much. And good night. Thank you.
And we now move on to unfinished business.
Great, thank you, Mr. Chair. 2 items I want to bring to your attention. The first one is the strategic plan, as I indicated, I think as part of remarks made there. This plan, I shared with you first, is our intention to put it on the website. The progress that has been made, and you will note that not every item has an update provided. And the reason for that is if it is something that was not even to be initiated until, say, 2015 or even later, we did not note anything on there. There are a couple of instances where we are very much ahead, but this is work that is representative of not only the members of the leadership team, but also teacher teams as well. So our plan is to share this with the design team that worked with us this past spring, and then get it posted on the website. But I'm very pleased with the work that's ongoing so far.
Excellent. Any comments, questions? Moving along.
The next item, in terms of transition planning, just wanted to share with you, this is understandably taking considerable time as we plan very carefully for the transitions that are going to take place. So in addition to, and these are just some of the activities, as you know, all last school year, actually starting in February, then again in April and June, there were collaboration meetings with the JB and PAC staff. In April, I did a parent presentation to parents regarding the merger. I've recently met with the Mary D. Stone staff. As you know, the town meeting approved the transfer of slightly over $20,000 from the restitution account for us to be able to repurpose the Packagug playground, and that will happen obviously after those students leave there, and also the support of the DPW. We meet regularly, Dr. Lozay, Mr. Fahey, Mrs. Lopez, and Mrs. Kozik and I, in terms of the planning. They've actually got a meeting of the staffs of JB and PAC coming up on, I believe it's November 24th, that they'll be meeting again. Storage bins have been delivered to the schools that will be moving, and it will be 4 schools, staff who will be impacted by that. And we had purchased some items, but also Mr. Fahey secured, through the collaboration of the Auburn Public Library, who went through, or is still going through part of a move themselves. We also have, I think it's 7 pallets of cardboard boxes available, which is great for teachers. And our goal is really to have them purge as much as possible throughout the school year to minimize the impact at the end of the year. We also have a team that's working on, as we're the potential of closing or returning to the town, Mary D. and Julia Bancroft, that should those schools come offline, they hold very dear memories for people in this community, and for generations they have, or decades I should say. So we actually have the 2 principals, Mrs. Lopez and Mrs. Chase. Dr. Lozay and I have had several meetings, and we're inviting some key members of the community, Mr. Ethier being one of them, in terms of a town historian, to be brought in. We've outreached to former principals because we're planning events, some symbolic gestures throughout, starting in January, to recognize and give people opportunities. One of the ideas is potentially either having an art teacher create a drawing, or someone doing a drawing and giving, using our PTOs and potentially selling note cards. I think people might be interested in those. And not to create a profit for that, but really just to give people an opportunity. We've collected some photos, so we've got some nice things, and we're looking right now to culminate with an open house event at both of the schools late in April. So that work is ongoing, and I will report back to you, coming up and things. So, and as noted here, we did just receive the call today from the Sheriff's Department that they will be supporting us. So we've got details to work out yet, but that will certainly help minimize the costs.
Great.
Are there any questions?
Yeah, I know
Chelsea?
it could be like a liability issue, but would you use groups of parents that are willing to help with the move, or is that too?
Yeah, so we've actually had some people offer, and we've even had some of the scouts, the older scouts that are interested. We have athletes at the high school who are required to put in community service learning hours. So I think that it will be very reasonable. We will check and be sure that there's no liability issue. But honestly, each year in the summer, many staff bring in children sometimes, or friends to help them assist with that. So it will definitely be a team effort that will be required. So as we get more information, we'll advertise that, but we've been thinking about that too.
Oh, good, because that could be fun.
It could be, and I think the older students who are, at the high school, they always love reconnecting with former teachers and coming in and spending some time. So I think it could be a great community events.
Yes.
Won't happen in one day.
So shall I put down your name as the first
Yeah, she's
volunteer?
number 1.
And how much can you lift,
no.
Mrs. Harrington?
We'll see.
I have a question.
I
If-
might
if
help
there are-
coordinate. I don't
There
know
you
about
go.
this.
There we go.
Yeah.
Are there any other questions? I have a question, Dr. Brunel. As we move staff to the new buildings, and it's a ways off now, but how are we going to change the structure of certain departments, whether it's facilities? I think it would mostly affect facilities or the kitchen staff, not so much the teachers, because we've got the lead teachers, we've got the administrators, but how do we figure out the pecking order, and is that something that we're already working on? And if so, are we giving that information to those employees now?
We are working on it. We've actually been looking at that even since last year. One change that you'll note or hear about tomorrow night and in my summation, that by bringing grades 3, 4, and 5 together, if you remember, you approved two additional teachers, one this year and one last year, Julie Bancroft. With the merger, we will actually only need one of those additional ones, but that will be taken care of with the retirement, so that won't be an issue. So we are looking at, when we have monthly meetings, where will we need staff? How will we realign them? You'll see that we'll actually have, if we close the 2 schools, there are 4 custodians. 3 of them will be needed at 10 Swanson Road. The additional one will go over to the new middle school. And you'll also see, as Mr. Fahey said tonight, the additional, you may not have seen it, a request for, it'll come in tomorrow, it's Mr. Gagnon, a half-time custodians, that will be 4.5 staff there. So that's very much in play and at work. Some will be taken care of with retirements, but I don't anticipate that we'll really see a substantial decrease in our staff. It's simply a realignment of them.
Okay. That's, yeah, my concern is just for these individuals going into a new setting, working with new people. They're in their comfort zones, and in some cases, there may even be limitations. They may have put in a lot of good years and may not be able to keep up with the rest of the staff. And I just want to make sure that we're mindful of that, and we're making everyone comfortable.
That is certainly the goal. We recognize, and the reason we started the work last year and continue it this year is change is hard for people. Minor changes are hard. We're actually going to be doing some pretty substantial changes in this district. So we continue to give people an opportunity to ask questions. We provide answers when we know them. But if it does come to the place that as soon as we are comfortable in certain of where people will go, we're sharing that information with them as soon as possible for them to be aware.
Okay.
Could I continue on with that question?
Absolutely, yeah.
When the middle school was formed, they took 6th grade teachers from one school and mixed them with 6th grade teachers from the other school. They also mixed the students, so you didn't have a package-hog section and a JV. And is that the plan for this?
Definitely.
The students and staff will be?
It absolutely will be, and in fact, so we have floor plan layouts of each of the schools. So the Mrs. Kozik and Mrs. Lopez, and with Dr. Lozay and I, and Mr. Fay's been part of it as well, and Mr. Bouvier sometimes, they've actually designated, and the teachers know this, where their approximate area will be, and then they're waiting to make the determinations per classroom. But it will be very much a mingling of
Good.
all of the students
Excellent.
and staff, absolutely.
And I had another question today. As I was thinking about the bus routes, because I know you're already working on that.
Yeah.
And I went, oh, well, at Swenson Road, they could just use the middle school bus routes. But the middle school students stand, like, sometimes near busy streets. So I'm hoping with grades 3 through 5, they'll be more in the neighborhoods, not out on the thoroughfares like the older children would be.
Sure.
Because I'm thinking of like South Street, they stand on the street or in the corner. But they're awfully young, grades 3, 4, and 5, to be on the corner of a street where traffic goes by pretty quickly.
So that's all part of the analysis
Okay.
that's being done.
So it'd be more protective for that age.
Sure, yes, absolutely. And that's the work that Mr. Barber and Mr. Fahey actually started Monday with AA, and actually to look at, if we roll all of the students up 1 year, what will change in terms of routes, and that's why we put in the placeholder of an additional bus that may be needed.
Okay,
May be needed.
thank you.
Any other questions?
Just a comment, I guess, back to all the transitions that are coming up. I think there's a real fear of families being broken up, if you will, especially like the Bryn Mawr and the Mary D. You kind of get into the rhythm and the janitors and everyone. It's a close-knit family. So from what I've gathered out there from parents and everything, is that there's a fear that there's so much change going on as it is, that would be disrupted as well. So it's just something to think about when you are trying to figure out who's going to go where.
Yeah, so through the chair, do you mean the staff being like a family and them staying together? Is that what you were referring to? Or?
Well, yeah, like the staff staying together, or, like I guess the parents through pickup and through drop-off, like you get to know people.
Oh, sure.
And so I think there's a real fear that the parents are fearing that everyone's going every which way. And
Yeah, so now I understand your question. By and large, and when I met with the Mary D. Stone staff earlier in October, I think in all likelihood that staff will stay intact, but for some changes that happen annually. If children go on to a new grade and they're instructional assistant or ABA would change with them. But by and large, that staff would stay intact and simply move to Packagug. The Julia Bancroft and PAC merger at 10 Swanson Road, again, I think by and large, the staff will all stay, but for some minor switches that will happen. And because I think it is important for people to see that familiarity.
Yes.
And then to get to know some additional people. So I think the blending, so all of those things are very much in consideration.
Okay,
Very
great.
much part of the decision making.
Yeah, that's great.
Absolutely.
All right. Like, you get to know your secretary,
Right,
you know,
right,
the principal
right.
secretary, and so
Yeah.
I think it would be really confusing
Yeah.
for the kids.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right, great.
Is
You're
there
welcome.
anything else?
Well, I'll just add one thing. One of the things the sixth graders said when they went to the middle school, and this happened year after year after year, is we'd ask them what they thought, and they always responded, I loved all the new friends I made. So it does become a nice
Yeah.
opportunity
Yeah.
for that.
Yeah, that's a good point.
I will just say that I was sure that you were handling that correctly, and you were taking their input from all the schools. I'm not just talking about Mary D. here, but yeah, the more we can do to listen and try to make them somewhat comfortable. This is not a perfect world. We cannot put everybody exactly where they want to be.
Right.
It's just not going to happen
Right.
without keeping the same amount of buildings. But I just want to make sure that they know that we're here to support them in this change. It is a big change. It's really, it's a life change, going from one building to another and working with a whole other group of people.
Right.
So
Right.
just make sure that they know that we support them, and any questions, we're all ears.
Go see the superintendent.
Yeah, exactly.
If I may, through the chair, one other burning question that I know is out there, as well as inside the school district, is who will be the principal at
Right.
10 Swanson Road. And as I have explained to the parties involved, if we were to hire a new principal in this school, we would look to start that process probably in February and make an announcement in April. We have so much work that needs to be done this year. They have 100% responsibility of things happening this year. And I think to make that announcement too soon, and I think it is far too soon right now, could actually be counterproductive. So I will be waiting until much later, and I know that does not make some people happy, but I believe it's the right thing to do, and I have to do that way.
I would have to say that I totally agree with that. How do we know that we're not going to lose a principal
course.
between now and the end
Right.
of the year? It's just not something
Well, we're
that
not.
that you
We're
can
not having
jump the
snow
gun
days, and we're
on.
not losing principals.
All right, we are in that perfect world. Thank you. Oh, welcome to the
Yeah.
perfect world.
This is
I didn't mean to
Auburn.
interrupt you.
No,
Yes, right?
that's all right. I was
Well, we've
just,
just improved a lot then.
Yeah.
and we will not be discussing,
This one we can't, just not that, so.
okay.
The school closure, I just wanted to provide you a copy of the letter in here that was sent to Mr. Hudson, just making him aware. And in further communications with him, he said, really, this generally happens at the statement of interest time, and that would have been back when we were building the new middle school. But he said it really isn't a concern. He'd let us know if he had any questions, but I just want you to make you aware that had been done. And then finally, under unfinished business, is the Southern Worcester County amended agreement. I shared this with you back in May. It was in draft form. And just as you can see here on November 3rd, the collaborative received the approval letter from Commissioner Chester. So I share it with you and would ask for you just to accept the amended copy as presented.
I would entertain a motion.
I move that we accept the amended copy as presented.
Do I have a second? Is there any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
It is a vote.
And that's all under unfinished.
And that's all. And under new business.
I did share with you in a packet, Adam Gaudet is the town administrator in Spencer, and he is working with others to coordinate a Chapter 70 forum, a regional Chapter 70 forum, and it will be held on Thursday, November 20th at Wachusett High School at 6:30 p.m. So I shared with you the actual letter that came from him, and also made notes here. So if you do plan to attend, I would ask you just to RSVP as indicated here, or let us know, and we can certainly pass that along to him.
And through the chair, that's the same night we're being asked to go to the Blue Ribbon Award for Here in
It is.
town.
So I know that I will not be able to go. There will be some other regional, through the chair, there will be some other regional forums taking place, so if I hear of those, we can certainly let you know.
Transportation update.
Okay. In terms of the transportation update, we've shared already that this work is ongoing, doing the dry run that's taking place, and I thank Mr. Barber and Mr. Fahey and AA for their work with that. We look forward to sharing information with you in the coming weeks. And then finally, just making you aware that budget presentations, we'll have them again here tomorrow night, starting at 6:30 with the principals as well as the Director of Physical Education, Health, and Athletics.
And we do need to go
We do need
into
a very
executive
brief,
session.
yes.
So I will entertain a motion to go into executive session.
Is it this one?
Right on the superintendent's memo?
Yes.
No, it's this one,
No?
yeah, right in the memo.
Make a motion to enter executive session for Mass General Law, Chapter 30, Section 21A3, to discuss strategy with regard to potential litigation of a union and non-union collaborative.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Roll call vote?
Mrs. Harrington?
Yes.
Ms. Sutton?
Yes.
Mrs. Holloway?
Yes.
Mr. Page?
Yes.
Mr. Scobie?
Yes.